Well, here in Alicante, the headquarters of the Volvo Ocean Race, we have got so much to bring you for today's daily live show. We are going to be hearing from Ian Walker, the man that won the last edition of the Volvo Ocean Race, the first British skipper to do so. He's going to be talking to us via Skype in just a few moments, but also we're going to be dialing into two of the boats. We've got Brad Ferrand on board AkzoNobel and Annie Lush midway through her watch on board Team Brunel, giving us their insights into the race. But before we do all that, let's take a look at the boats and see where the race is right now in the Southern Ocean. So this is the progress made so far since the start in Cape Town all the way to Melbourne, Australia. Early days in this leg, but let's just zoom in and see how the front runners are lying at the moment. Well, two groups. We've got 3 boats to the north, 4 boats to the south. In that northerly group at the moment, we've got Vestas 11th Hour Racing and Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, and then a slightly trailing Turn the Tide on Plastic. Down to the south at the moment, it's Dongfeng Racing being chased hard by Mafre, AkzoNobel hanging in there in that 3rd spot, and Team Brunel just a little way behind. That's where the fleet are lying. Who's doing well? Who's proving to be very much a contender for this leg? Well, don't take my word for it. Let's hear what Ian Walker, the winner of the last edition, had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've really seen sort of 3 fleets developing within the 7 boats. You've kind of got Dongfeng and Mafre. I think we're going to see engaged in almost a private match race. We've seen a lot of that already, and it seems to be sort of more and more evident. And then, you know, Brunel and at times AkzoNobel. AkzoNobel are going pretty well so far in this leg. Made a really good decision in one of the transitions earlier with a couple of extra tacks. And obviously Vestas did well on leg 1, you know, with their tactics on the Spanish coast. So there's kind of like a middle fleet. And then as we've seen, there's the sort of private battle as well between Turn the Tide and Scallywag. Now that's not to say the boats can't get mixed up, but I think they're all kind of looking at each other, and I could see a situation here where Mafre and Dongfeng kind of egg each other on further and further south. And I think it's almost like the responsibility is on the boat behind to jibe and go north, and then the guy in front will probably be relieved and go with them. Don't forget, they're within sight of each other, and they can certainly see each other on AIS, so they'll be able to match each other pretty closely. And then from now on, it's going to start to intensify. We'll see the boats lift, and eventually they'll jibe. And it's the timing of that next jibe that is key. If you jibe early, you'll get yourself to the north. That will give you a little bit more safety from the ice gate. And it will also mean you probably have slightly less wind and slightly better sea state. The longer you hang on, the further south you go, the more you will gain, as long as you can keep sailing the boat to optimum performance as the wind and the sea states worsen. And it will worsen, and the worst bit actually will not be the initial strong winds from the northwest. The worst bit will be when they get overrun and have to jibe. And I've done that in the South Atlantic, and it's one of the worst bits of sailing I've ever done. You get overrun. You end up jibing and going dead down the waves for a period of time on starboard tack, and that at night time is particularly nasty, and it's very, very squally. And the other thing you've got to remember is that sort of 40, 50 knots in the Southern Ocean feels a lot worse than 40, 50 knots in the mid latitudes. It's dense, cold air, particularly behind the front, and it's not nice. It's quite squally, and in the daytime you can manage that. At the night time, it's very hard to tell how strong those gusts are going to be, and that's when we broke the boom on Green Dragon, because it was the middle of the night. 1 minute it's 20 knots of wind, and the gusts all night 30, 40 knots of wind, and suddenly we had one over 50. So, you know, it's difficult at night time.
Well, we'll come back to Ian Walker and get more of his thoughts on what's happening in the race right now. Let's have a look at the weather and this impending storm that's brewing in the Southern Ocean. Now, if you're fans of the show, you'll know that Conrad Coleman normally does the weather, but right now he is still dealing with the fact that he is very happily a new father. So we've got Gonzalo, who is here as the Chief Meteorological Officer for the Volvo Ocean Race. Now, Gonzalo, talk us through the weather that's building at the moment.
Okay, let me explain you. Right here, this hieroglyphic of wind barbs and isobars is showing the situation for tomorrow, Wednesday at 03 UTC. You have Cape Town here. This pink line is the Antarctic ice exclusion zone that is keeping the fleet safe from the iceberg drift. And this area here is an old occluded low, what we call occluded low, that it's quite big. And in the north sector is developing what we call a secondary low. This kick on the isobars is a secondary low. Okay, so far so good. The fleet will be able up to this point to sail either southeast or a little bit more northeast. But at some point during tonight, they will have to decide whether to take in this conservative approach or the more aggressive approach. And why do we say that? Because in some time more, like 21 UTC on Wednesday, if you take the southeastern approach, you will be just ahead of this monster that has developed from 1,000 hectopascal to 960 hectopascals in less than 12 hours. While taking the conservative approach, you will be at a distance from the center, which is good because a little bit later, we are showing you now a significant wave height. What happens is that 20 hours after the system has developed, a lot of sea states develops here, wave height over 10 meters. And if you choose the aggressive option and you have a problem, you will end up close to this area that you want to avoid.
All right, thanks, Gonzalo. So, big breeze, big conditions, lying in wait for these sailors. So let's hear what they think about it. This is Annie Lush on board Team Brunel. We spoke to her just a few moments ago.
The talk at the beginning was this is going to be a very difficult leg, and I think we all know that. But you know, there has been quite a bit of chat about how many days it's going to take. And I know that some of the predictions were very optimistic, even getting us in for Christmas. So, you know, if it is windy and we do get there quickly, then maybe we can get in for Christmas Day. So there is a sort of light at the end of the tunnel. It's getting cold. The first night was very difficult out of Cape Town, obviously 35 up to 40 knots upwind, horrific sea state. And you could already feel that the water was cold and it was getting cold. So we got sort of HPX stuff on, but, you know, hooded jackets trying to protect your face quite a lot. Some people are wearing gloves. I mean, not right now, it's much calmer at the moment, but we've generally been wearing life jackets and harnesses so far this leg, and we'll continue to. And I'm even wearing a bow harness as well, which you can see. I help out on the bow, but again, you just need to be clipped on whatever you're doing. So even if I'm just at the mast putting a reef in, then just need to be a lot safer on this leg because the waves get big and, you know, they're very unforgiving. It's cold and it's big waves. We've talked quite a bit through how to do manoeuvres. It's obviously everything's just all about being prepared and making sure that if you are putting yourself in a compromised position, sort of going forward and getting things ready, then before that you've all talked through the plan and been very clear, and even just being very diligent. You know, we always have our sails stacked and everything stacked and making sure that it's really all locked in, because just, you know, even a little tiny bit out, something flapping, and the next thing you know, it'll be whisked off the side of the boat. So just making sure that everything's done properly, and even if it takes a couple more minutes, is really vital to do it on this leg.
How is it that you guys are lining up to try and strategically get around the opposition?
This is a double points leg, obviously, and I think although we're already we're only 2 legs into the race so far, so we've talked a lot about how this leg could be quite a game changer. You do well in this leg, and I think the points could all look quite different. So yeah, we plan to push very hard. I think, you know, we've had some good sailing so far, some good speed. First couple of days doing well against Batford and Dongfeng, who, you know, have more time in these conditions than us, but we've been going well. Last 4 hours have been a bit more difficult, but you know, I just think it's all going to change, and the next 10 hours is going to be big, making sure you get onto the right sails quickly and set up properly to send it.
And how's the morale at the moment on board the boat? Obviously, as we leave the sunshine and we leave the warmth, the sailing gets serious. Still smiles?
Still smiles at the moment, but, you know, a few of the guys still don't quite know what's to come. I think Pete was saying yesterday, as we had sunshine, and actually it was almost a bit too hot wearing this gear, that, you know, he was like, oh, I like the Southern Ocean so far. But yeah, it's going to hit us hard by tomorrow, don't worry. Then we'll know. So
Team Brunel chasing down hard in that group. Just ahead of them, Team AkzoNobel, and we spoke to Brad Ferran just before we came on air to get his thoughts on what these conditions are like.
So, I mean, there's a couple of teething areas, as there normally is. At the start of each leg, you find a couple of leaks here and there, but so we're just making sure that we're watertight, and we're looking after the boat as much as we can, make sure that we don't make any mistakes. And while it's light, it's a good time to keep the boat dry, do the final check on all your systems, and then get into the heavy stuff. So right now is really interesting. We've got a couple of different sail combinations going on. We've got the masthead zero, and we've got I think Mupfre is on a fro, and then behind us I think Brunel are probably on a fro as well. So it's kind of whoever gets the right breeze at the moment. At the moment I think we're going all right, just because the breeze suits our sail combination. But yeah, when we're on the same sails, it's neck and neck. Everything's tight. But when we're on different sails, you win some, you lose some. And at the moment, we're going all right, I think.
I mean, obviously, we know that there's some big breeze coming. Do you see your guys backing off at all?
40 knots on the wind, leaving wasn't that flash, but 40 knots downwind. I don't see any of our drivers here or anyone else on board taking it easy. I think we're still going to give it everything.
So the next few days certainly going to be proving very exciting and very challenging for the sailors. Now, we were speaking to Ian Walker. Let's go back to him now, because this is one man who knows what it's like to wrestle with these decisions, to look after not only your boat, but also your team, as well as that, also try to win the leg.
Well, Dongfeng are quick, and they did my head in the last race, because in the last race they were really, really quick, and we struggled to stay ahead of them. So they definitely seem fast, and Mapfre, I think they've got great strength and depth in their sailing team, so I see them probably pushing harder than anybody else. But this is an opportunity as well for everybody else. Who's to say that Scallywag, what Whitty's like, he loves 50 knots of wind. Who's to say that Whitty won't try and send it down there? That's what he always talks about. And maybe we'll see a little bit more common sense from the likes of Dee, because she's got a lot of Southern Ocean rookies on board, and maybe this is a chance to sort of back off a little bit, which could well pay off in the long run.
From where you are at the moment, from the safety of dry land, the sailors are in for a hell of a ride.
Yeah, that's right. They're just dipping down south, or they've got reasonably far south, and quite a big depression, secondary depression spinning up behind them, and that can move and change and deepen very, very fast. So this will be a very tense time for the skippers. They've got a couple of really big factors to consider coming up, like proximity to the ice gate and just how much of the wind and the waves they want to take on, and sort of weighing that up against the potential gains in the race. But of course, it could be a race loser if they get it wrong and break a mast or something. So horrible, horrible time for the skippers and navigators right now, and it'll soon be a horrible time for the crews.
Safety's got to come in there as well. You've been down there. You've sort of weighed up these decisions. What's that like?
Yeah, it's a bit of the race I never really enjoyed. You do feel a long way from land. You feel a long way from help, and the problem is the race never lets up. The moment you blink, the moment you back off, the moment you take a more conservative decision, there's always somebody else who's slightly crazier than you, and you see them gaining miles, and that's not a nice feeling. And also you've got to sort of weigh up the morale of the crew, because generally speaking, the crew don't want to back off. They generally don't thank you for taking a conservative decision until afterwards. At the time, everybody wants to push until you're in trouble or difficulties.
And any part of you that's wishing that you were out there experiencing this for yourself again?
Well, I've got my hands full right now at the RYA, but I scraped the ice off the car windscreen this morning, and I've got my hat. I'm in the office. I've got my cup of tea. So no, I'm quite happy in the office today, especially over the next 2 days.
All right, Ian, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Good luck with your office job at the RYA. Can't wait to see what you do.
All right, nice speaking to you guys. I'm following it closely.
Well, Ian Walker there, going from victorious as a Volvo Ocean Race skipper to now director of racing for the RYA. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, Ian. And tomorrow we're going to have another daily live show for you at 1300 UTC, and you do not want to miss it. This pressure, this wind, this waves, and the challenging situations that it is unfolding for the sailors is sure to start hitting them soon. Join us tomorrow for the Quick Fix in the morning, and then at 1300 UTC, we'll bring you more.